Hello there. We're going to spend about a half an hour today talking about a product called dAnalyzer. It's been out for more than a year now. We have several hundred installs of the product running. Very cool reporting tool. It's really designed to deal with challenges in businesses, and the challenges really are about needing analysis capability as well as just reports, as well as needing the ability to create those reports per your specific business. The challenge with any accounting system or any business system really is that when it creates reports, it has specific things in mind in terms of the criteria it gives you, the ways it allows you to run the report, and the columns, of course, that it displays. And there's a big problem with that. And the problem with that is that every business differs. Some businesses want to see less of certain kinds of information and more of others. Whether you are in the same business or a different business, you might be interested in salespeople as opposed to territory codes, as opposed to product categories, or maybe you want to focus on attributes of the customer or attributes of inventory items. So the challenge really is to provide the capability of easy report creation and flexible report creation to the companies that are using the software, not just the out-of-the-can reports. Even amongst businesses that are in identical industries, there are differences. You can find two companies, both of which sell tires, but one company focuses on sales comparisons over time, as opposed to another company which focuses specifically on particular salespeople or sales territories. So two companies doing the same thing but approaching the problem in two different ways, and that's what dAnalyzer is there to try and address, is how to go about handling that. How do you provide that kind of capability in a way that someone who's really good at the business information can handle, but doesn't want to have to cope with the technicalities of something like Crystal Reports, where you've got tables and columns and rows and data sources and all that kind of stuff. What is dAnalyzer? dAnalyzer is really an ad hoc report writer and kind of a what-if engine or a what-if analysis model. The idea being that it allows you to do analysis of your data to determine trends in your business, opportunities that you might not be capitalizing on, or even problems that require correction that are going to ultimately help you in the long term. So dAnalyzer really is a tool to allow you to see all that information in the way that you decide is important, and then use that information in the long term to help better your business. It's also a great conduit for transferring information to Excel, and one of the things that if you're in the accounting industry or in the business software industry you have to accept is that Excel really is prolific. It's everywhere, and it's widely used as a capable tool for helping analyze information. So dAnalyzer can do a lot of that analysis, but it can also pass that information over to Excel to do even more analysis. All in all, I guess the best way to summarize it is it's a tool to help you understand your business better. There's two kinds of analyses in dAnalyzer, and I'm going to push through these slides really quick because I want to get over to showing you in the software. The first kind is called a detailed analysis, and this is more your typical report type analyses. You've got rows of data, and then you've got columns of information, and you've got totals at the bottom of those columns grouped in whatever way you see as appropriate. So it's similar to that concept. You're starting with detail, and then you're getting summary information at the bottom. What's different about this, I'll demonstrate in the demo, is the flexibility. What you can do with this and the kinds of decisions you can make on the fly for viewing information, whether you decide to print that information or not. And the second kind is something called a summary analysis, and a summary analysis takes a different tact. It says that the valuable information is at the summary level. And then you can drill down further to get additional information about the details that make up that summary level total. Where summary level analysis becomes really useful is when you can start to use it to see trends over time, or graph, period balances, that kind of thing, and where you can start to see relationships between numbers, which again is analysis that helps you make decisions that'll benefit your business. I want to quickly get into the software. Don't want to spend too much time in the PowerPoint. You'll notice when you start up, if you've seen dAnalyzer before, dAnalyzer has grown quite a bit. It's more than doubled in size since the version 3 version. We've added sales analysis, or I should say sales analysis was there and sales orders were there, but we've added purchase analysis, detail and summary, and purchase order detail and summary, those being your open purchase orders, as well as introducing inventory, which I'm going to spend some time towards the end talking about, in this really cool new thing called the inventory planning summary, which is a very, very useful tool for helping you manage your business and manage inventory concerns within your business. So let's spend some time talking specifically about details. We'll start with the sales analysis detail, and I'm just going to refresh the date range and I'll refresh that information. And what you'll see here is that when it reads the data, it basically brings it in as individual rows, each made up of information regarding that invoice. So here we see, let's just minimize this so we can see a little better. We see the invoice number, the customer, the part number that was sold and its description, the product category it was in, how many were sold in terms of committed quantity, the sell price total, which is taking into account all the relevant information to give you a total sale price per line, as well as the territory details and the salesperson details, and of course the invoice date. Now again, this could be useful information right here, but really the usefulness comes in terms of what you can do with this. The grid supports multiple sorting and grouping, so here I can say, well, I want to sort by customer number first, and then within customer number I want to sort by product code details. So now I'm actually looking at a sorted list based on that. In conjunction with grouping, that's even more powerful, because here I might say, well, what I really want here is I want to have it sorted based on customer details, but I want the product category details as totals. I want to break down based on product categories. So I'll drag the product code details up, and what we'll see now is within each one of these product categories, we automatically generate totals. So here, if I scroll down to one of my more active ones, let's scroll all the way down to, let's say, speakers. That'll be right now near the bottom. So here, very large list here. So down at the bottom of speakers, I can see my total in terms of unit sales, as well as my total sales amount for the sales of speakers within the range that I specified for my date selection. Again, you can do even more with this. I could say sort within that grouping based on item description, for example. And what that does now is groups together the same items, or group further based on part numbers. So these tools are all generic, and there's a ton of different things that you can do with them to suit the particular kinds of reports that you're after. One of the most powerful parts about this is that in addition to all this, you can print it at any point. So I might decide, well, let's put the part number back here and the product code details back, and I just want to quickly print this. Click on the print button, and that automatically generates a report preview that shows you all the information that's in the report. And of course you could have sized columns so that you can fit it in nicely. Let's minimize that. You can also apply filters at any point. So let's say you're looking at this type of report, but you're particularly concerned about a given customer, let's say. One way to filter that is to just enter in the first few digits of a customer in the customer number column, and that now is showing you, Toronto Radio Limited, and you're getting your totals at the bottom just for Toronto Radio Limited. Other ways you can filter that further, you can say, well, I'm interested in Toronto Radio Limited, but I also am interested in, let's say, cables. And now I'm looking at those sales within that date range for Toronto Radio for cables. Again, very, very useful to be able to quickly do this kinds of thing. You might not save this as a report, but you could use this as an inquiry. Easy to print this information, as we mentioned. Easy to move things around. Let's simplify this. Let's get rid of these filters. And let's add in additional fields. The real power to this comes in that you can add many, many fields. You'll notice that there are literally hundreds of fields on this list that I can use. Territory, salespeople, product codes. Let's throw city on here. You'll notice that because we link to the customer now, we can bring in city information. And here now we can even group by city. So we can say, well, let's drag the city column up here. And now what we're seeing is we're getting totals per city. Easy to add totals as well. Let's add a count in here. I want to know the number of times I've sold to people in Brampton. So I'll add a count in here. And automatically you get totals for total sales based on city. So here I can look at Brampton, I did $207,000 worth of sales, as opposed to Brockville, where I did $229,000 in sales. Not doing quite as well in Burlington, for example. Apparently we only have one customer in there, Rick Notman. So again, very, very useful for you to be able to see this information. One neat filter you can add is you could say, well, maybe I want to filter this way, but I've got something a little bit more complicated than off of a pick list. So what you can do here is you choose the filter editor, and let's say I want a couple of cities. I want city is equal to Toronto, or I want city is equal to Burlington. And now what I get basically is a sorted list, again grouped by city, so I get a separate total for Toronto and a separate total for Burlington, but at the bottom of the report I get a total of $1.8 million for the sale total for both of them. So again, very, very easy to apply these filters and very, very easy to use them. One question you might ask is, well, if you've done all this work, designing how you want this thing to look and the filters you want to apply, can you use that? And the answer is yes, you can. Just save these things as layouts. So I can say here, for example, that this is going to be my SA report for Toronto and Burlington, and click on OK, or click on Save, I should say. And what happens now is these become available layouts. So I can have these already pre-established using whatever combination of filters as complex as I want them to be. So for example, if I want to switch between this one to sales by salesperson and product category, I just click on OK, and that loads up the layout and applies it to this set of data. And now what I'm looking at is by salesperson and product category. So there's my sales for Donald Carpenter, there's my sales for Frank Smith, and so on and so on. I said you can print this at any point. You can also export this. You could have exported it from the print preview window. The export's nice though, because the export's nice and straightforward. If I just throw these down here to make this a little easier to see, when I export this, we give you a very data-oriented view. So the numbers are formatted properly as numbers, and you can do further calculations. Maybe this is the basis of some complex, commission report that you're doing, or anything like that. So this is sort of the simple one-click export that gives you exactly the information that you want. Lots of little tools in here you can use. You can, of course, at any point hide the navigating bars, as we saw. Hide graphs if graphs are available. One neat little thing is per company you can have different skins. In honor of Halloween coming up, I can go over to this one basically, and this will now show me my Halloween skin. The real main benefit of this one being that you can vary it based on company, so you know which company data you're looking at. That's a quick view, really quick view of the details. Let's spend some time in the summary. Summary is a bit different. Let me bring up the summary, sales analysis summary. And what you'll see with the summary is that now we're focusing specifically on summary information. I'm just going to reset this. I'll set my date range. Whoops. I want 2000. And when I set my date range and run this, what you'll see basically is that our default, the default columns and arrangements that we provide, shows you customer information down the left-hand side and month and year information across the top. So this in and of itself, the default report, is very useful. Here I can see information about the customers. Let's just minimize this for a second. Customers down the left-hand side, and then their month-over-month sales from a comparative standpoint. This shows me who's busy in what months and whether they're up or down based on a given month. Again, this is just one of many different reports you can set up. Easy to modify this. I could say, well, I'm not interested in month, and now what I'm looking at here is this year versus last year per customer. I can even get rid of things I don't want. So I can say, well, hide me the grand total columns for the column. And so now I'm not seeing the total, I'm just seeing comparative information between this year and last year. Easy to graph all this stuff. I can basically select any two items and graph. And what I'm looking at here now is a breakdown of sales this year versus last year based on customers. While I'm working on this, it's easy to continue to sort of modify it. I can add other things to it. One neat report I might want to look at is some of the custom fields here. I might say, well, I'm interested in all this, but in addition to this, I also want to see things like the average profit total, for example. Throw the average profit total in there, and what I see now is a specialized report. Now I'm looking at the gross amount of sales, but I'm also looking at the average profit total from those sales. Where this gets really useful from an analytical standpoint is if I sort this, now I see sorted from highest to lowest those customers I deal with who are most profitable. And that can be really useful. Here, for example, we can see that while my sales were lower for Florence Radio than Tarrant Sound, my profit was higher. And the reason for that is that obviously I'm selling items that are at a higher profit margin. Maybe that's labor items I'm selling, or just items that just happen to have better margins. So this is that kind of useful information that you can dig down on or drill down on. Lots more you can do with these summaries, and everything I'm saying here that you can do in any of the summaries. And similarly, the rules and the detail modules apply on all the detail modules. Here's a quick one. Let's say I'm not interested in average profit total. I'm not interested in customer details specifically. What I am interested in is months. Drag that down, and now what I'm seeing is just a gross total sales of or sales comparison month over month. Now the cool thing here is I can graph this. Just graph this, and I'll take out let's say June, since I'm halfway through that period, and you'll see that it's creating graphs as we go. If I double click on that graph, you'll see that what I'm seeing now is last year's sales trend month over month for 2001, and then the sales trend overall for this year. So that's useful information. I can make decisions based on that. I mean, I'm seeing that my sales are much higher, which is great, but it looks like they're kind of petering out in previously completed months. So I might want to dig in on that and figure out why that might be. The neat thing about dAnalyzer is you can do that. I might say, okay, well, this is overall sales, but let's focus on a specific thing. So what I'll do here is I'll go into the filter, and I'll say I'm interested in when, I don't know, product category, let's say. I'll scroll all the way down here, and I'm going to choose product code is equal to speakers, SPK. And then I'll look at it again, and we'll see an interesting trend here. So what we're seeing here is that for speakers, obviously I'm being challenged in the April-May area. Maybe I have competition selling speakers, because while this line was above before, it's starting to kind of be impinged on by 2001. That may be because there's competition in that area, or people aren't buying as many speakers. I mean, this is the kind of information I can investigate. As is always the case in dAnalyzer, there's lots of different ways to do this. One is to apply this filter criteria. Another is to say, well, I really want to dig down on this. I really want to understand this better. So instead of doing it this way, what I'll do instead is I'll go into the field list. I'll find the product category. Where are we here? Price code. I can use the current one, or I can use a different one. Product code current. Let's use that one. We'll throw that up here, and what you see now is a breakdown with the same month over month, but now what we're looking at is by product category. So I can look at individual product categories and see, am I doing better or worse in the sales of computers as opposed to cabling, as opposed to DVD, as opposed to home theater. So now what I'm looking at is the actual detail that make up each one of those totals. At any point you can do it that way. I said there's lots of different ways you can do this. Another way you can do it is say, okay, instead of looking at it this way, I want to focus on it here first, but I'll pick a cell, I'll double click on it, and I'll drill down, and here we build up a list essentially of all the items that make up that cell's total, and you can then dig into this further and figure out exactly what's going on. Here you can even modify this, so you can say, well, within this grouping, I think that the issue may here be to do with the fact that product categories did really well, specific ones. So here I'll group based on product category, and I can then scroll down and look at the summaries and see, okay, well, which product categories were the highest. And here I can see, for example, that within this product category, home theater systems, sales were great. So I can tell that it almost doubled last year's sales just in that category. This is customized, and as soon as you customize it, it remembers. So if I close this and go to a different cell and open it up, it remembers that customization, so that I can use that drill down in all other cases where I'm doing sales analysis type summaries. So extremely useful for you to be able to get that information and figure out a little bit more about it. There are lots of different fields available for different purposes. A good example of a field that I know a lot of our customers use is the percentage field. So here, if I take, let's take sell price total by percentage, if it's not already up there. Oh, actually it is already up there. There it is, sell price total by percentage, and I drag this in. What this now gives me is a breakdown across the year, year over year, of sell price total percentages. So here I can see, that last year January made up 3% of my overall sales, and even though I'm only partway through this year, January made up, nearly 25% of the sales. So again, that's kind of giving you an idea, what your heavy months are, what your not heavy months are, and all these tools are generic. So whether it happens to be looking at a salesperson or a product category, you can use these types of breakdowns. Instead of focusing here specifically on months, I could do that. I could say, well, let's take month out, and let's put product category in here, product code current. And again, what I'm getting now is a breakdown. So I'm getting an idea of where my business is focused. I can see in this year that my highest, and let's sort this just to show that. In this year, home theater systems is my highest selling item, as opposed to last year where it was only 12% of the sales. This year so far, it's 30% of the sales. Speakers used to be 40% of my sales. Now this year they're 29% of my sales. So this is the kind of thing that you might want to drill down on further and investigate further. And that's really what dAnalyzer is for, is to give you that kind of power or those kinds of tools. Let's close that. We'll come back. Let's look at sales orders. We've looked at sales analysis. Sales orders is a similar concept, but now you're talking about open sales orders. I'll show you the default report since we don't have a lot of time to go through all of them. The default report for sales orders is taking the timeliness of sales orders into account. So here what we're looking at here is taking the required date of sales orders and spreading that out over time to determine what your needs are or your customers' needs are, not just in terms of overall how much are people ordering, but when are they ordering. So here I can look down these part numbers and see what my total order quantities are, but also over time, who's ordering what when. Here I can see that I need in June, July, and August, September, all the way through, I need DVD players and what the quantities are. And that's just part of it. You can go even further with this. You can drill down on these lines as well. Find out what's that made up of. Well, that's made up of 2 different sales orders, and you can of course customize this and move in things like the customer number if you're interested in who's ordering that particular item. So here I'll move the customer name in, and again you're just customizing these drill downs. Lots of different capabilities. Everything we've talked about so far in terms of sales analysis and looked at in sales orders applies to purchase orders and purchase analysis. The same kind of concept. Purchasing is just as important as sales. If you control that well, then you're saving a lot of money and you're keeping cash flowing into the business in the appropriate way. So that's kind of a huge thing to have both sides of that process. If, for example, I take the purchase order summary report and I look at the purchase order summary, let's run that for the full date range. And I'll scroll down here. You can see that for the same items you're seeing now purchasing requirements. So I have all those items which I've sold or I'm planning to sell in terms of sales orders, and all those items that are coming back in again. And the combination of those 2 reports can be very useful in terms of telling you, how cash flows into your business, how cash flows out of your business, and how to kind of arrange those in terms of whatever it is you need to do. Maybe that's financing, maybe that's just managing your sales flow. An additional type of report I want to show you is the inventory detail report. Same concept in terms of this report as the other reports. What you're looking at here though is instead of looking at transactions, what you're looking at is your actual inventory file. So now you're looking at line by line those inventory items that are in inventory, fully sortable and groupable, and it can be filtered in all the appropriate ways. So maybe I want to sort based on part number description, and then within part number description I want to see additional information. I can add in even other columns. So here I might say, well, it's important to me that I see whether or not these items are allowed to be returned. And I can throw that information over here as well. So again, all the columns you would imagine are available in inventory are available here with full capability to sort and group. There's all your quantity breaks and sell price lists and last year, this year, next year information. So that's all that information that you can drag in there to use in all the sort of similar ways that you saw me use in the detail reports. Rather than go through a bunch of examples, I pre-built some just to kind of give you a bit of an idea. Very easy what I've done here. Just reset this layout, and I've created a bunch of layouts. Remember how I said that we can have many layouts? Let's pick a couple. Here's a good one, validation report. This validation report's one that I introduced a filter, and that filter is specifically concerned about the UPC code being blank or the product code being blank. In this particular business, it's important that from a validation standpoint, these items where there's no product code details or the UPC code is blank be corrected. Somebody go in and make sure that product code details or UPC alternates are assigned to these items. So this report gets run on a regular basis. Lots of other types of reports. Um, Inventory value is a good one. An interesting one is inventory activity. Here's one where we take advantage of something BusinessVision does. This is a report that basically is sorted automatically so that the items most recently modified are listed at the top. The idea being here that I can review those items that have been modified today or over the last week, and that might be modified because of a receipt or a sale. It's just kind of a nice way of keeping an eye on exactly what's going on. Another sort of side effect of this type of report is if I scroll all the way to the bottom, I can see that I have inventory value invested in items which for some reason or another haven't moved, meaning they haven't been received, transferred, or sold, in a certain period of time. And that could be considered dead stock, something I want to try and return to a vendor or put on sale to try and move. That's kind of that useful information you can quickly get out of a product like dAnalyzer. Lots of other ones we could show. One of the key ones I wanted to mention was the inventory required quantity. I've said throughout this demo that we introduce calculated fields. This required quantity field is a good example of a calculated field. And what we do here is we take into account the back order, on hand, on order, reorder point, and committed quantities, as well as the minimum buy quantity to calculate what you should order. So if we take all that information into account, these are the top 6 items that need some action. In order to fill the reorder points or meet customer requirements, you should probably order these items. And this is very quickly generated. All you have to do is run the report, and now you have a list of items that you need to take some sort of action on. Real time saver, and it can make a huge difference when you know in advance that there's something that has to happen. I want to show you one last report, just to kind of wrap things up here. And I'm going to come back to these reports in order to help with this. One of the things we wanted to do with dAnalyzer is introduce more analytics, more ways to help you run your business. Here's a good example of one, and it's kind of a unique one. I'm just going to scroll over so we can see this a little better. We'll get rid of the graphing screens. So what we're looking at here basically is a report, we're currently operating in June, that's showing me all the part numbers, their on-hand quantities, and their reorder points, as well as what's happening in terms of order lines, both sales order lines and purchase order lines. So here what we're seeing is if it's a positive quantity, that means that we're receiving in more than we're selling across potentially many sales orders and purchase orders. And if it's a negative line, it means we're selling more than we're receiving in. So it's taking all the sales order lines and all the purchase order lines and sort of adding them together to arrive at a date-sensitive list going forward of what your materials requirements are or your inventory requirements are. This can be extremely useful, and it addresses the concern that, for some of you has probably already come up in your mind in some of the previous examples I threw out there. And let me quickly demonstrate what it's here for. I'm going to quickly go in. I'm going to do sales order summary. And in the sales order summary, I'm going to run it for the whole list of sales orders. And I'm going to apply a filter. So let's just use the quick filter list here. I'm going to apply a filter. I'm interested in televisions, that one. So what we see here in this example is for sales orders, I see that over time I have a requirement for 40 20-inch TVs with flat picture tube. Let's do the purchase order summary as well. And I'll do the same thing. So here I'm going to refresh it. And I'll pop up the list, and there's my 20-inch TV again. And here we see that we've got materials coming in or purchase orders being received for a total of 79. So far we look good. We need 40 and 79 are coming in. We'll also run our inventory report, the one we just ran. And let's refresh that. And there's our required quantity. And what we'll see in our required quantity report basically is that TV isn't on there. If I look at it, I can see my TV 2100 does not have a required quantity. So we're good. We have 79 that are coming in. We have 40 that are leaving. We're covered in terms of televisions. Here's where the problem comes in though. If I come back to my inventory planning summary, and let's go ahead and filter this again. We're going to focus on just my TV 2100. What we see here, let's kind of load it back to June. What we see here is this. We currently have 10 on hand. Our reorder point is 10. In June, we're selling 6, and then following that, we're net selling 4 or going negative 4 in July, meaning our receipts, our sales exceed our receipts by 4 in July. The problem is at the end of July, we're out of inventory if we don't get any more in. In August, we are about to try and sell at least 9 more, and we won't have the inventory for it. As of the end of September, the inventory comes in on multiple purchase orders and we're covered. The problem here is this helps us eyeball that we have a problem not in terms of overall quantities but in terms of timeliness. Now we can look at this and say, okay, in order to fulfill customer orders we may have to take some sort of an action before the end of September. Very, very useful tool, not only for inventory planning and figuring out what needs to come in when, but just for cash flow purposes. If I can invoice those orders earlier, that brings more cash into the business sooner, which is of course always the goal in a business, is to get cash sooner, limit the amount I have to disperse, but bring in cash as quickly as I can. This kind of report, the inventory planning summary report, is the kind of report that we want to continue to build into dAnalyzer, something that can really benefit a business in terms of providing value, in terms of cash flow, or even just a better understanding of how a business works. Let's quickly come back to our PowerPoint. A couple quick slides just to finish off. I didn't mention it earlier, but the product supports BV Essentials, which is a great order entry add-on, available from Tritech. It takes over the order entry file for BusinessVision and does a great job of it. When we encounter BV Essentials installed, we can automatically use that order file as opposed to the BusinessVision order file, and we have that option. Future development, I mentioned that we've doubled the size of the application over the last year. We introduced purchase analysis and purchase orders as well as inventory. We have goals to add even more. The inventory planning summary is something that is definitely being added, but we're talking about adding general ledger and inventory receipts and job cost and some of the other modules as well. Pricing is $16.95 for the initial workstation and $8.95 for each additional copy. We're noticing more and more as customers are buying this that they get 1 copy and then very quickly end up getting a second, third. I think our highest right now is a company that has 10. So it's a super, super useful tool, and they're using it for all kinds of different purposes on their workstations. If you buy the application before October 17th, there's a 15% off purchase price. Drop by our booth and we'll give you more information about that. Maintenance is free of charge for the first year. And that includes all updates. So as we continue to enhance the application, we'll make that available to you. After that, if you subscribe to maintenance, then you stay on that track. So as we add more functionality, it's available to you just for the purpose of staying on maintenance. There's a 15-day trial available now. All you have to do is log onto our website or check out our website and you can download that trial. Your choice, you can do that on your own, or you can have us take you through sort of a guided tour, either using your data or using demo data, whichever is best for you. I guess the best thing I can say in terms of a PR for the application is when we do go through live company data with people, oftentimes the conversation sort of devolves into conversations about issues about that business that dAnalyzer points out, or gets into, and that's a great advertisement for the benefit of a tool like this. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you drop by the booth. If you wanted more additional information, by all means, come by our booth or download the trial and have a look. Thank you very much.